Hello and welcome back to part 2 of opera terminology, and today we're going to talk about different types of opera. So a bit like when you go to the cinema, there are different kinds of films. You've got horror film, you've got rom-com, you've got action films. You've got the same thing in opera. There's different styles, and if you're told what the style is, you've got a pretty good idea of what to expect. And so we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of the main types. So one of the first forms of opera to appear was a form called opera seria, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's serious opera. So this is opera which is here to teach you something. It's got gods, it's got goddesses, it's got kings and queens. It's probably set in ancient Greece or something like that, and the story is really complicated. This is one of those operas where it's all about some king who married another woman who killed his wife in the first place, and there's a daughter and there's a long lost brother, and it gets very confusing. Next you've got comic opera or opera buffa. It's a tricky one because, to be honest, it's I think the hardest opera to pull off, because actually comedy and opera don't really go together very well. You know, the tragic or the dramatic really suits opera. So to get comic opera to work really well is a very tricky thing. So the third type of opera is called bel canto, and this is the operas that were written in the sort of early to mid 19th century, particularly in Italy, and it's all about a beautiful style of singing. Can you see the pigeon? We should have saved the pigeon for the comic opera bit, but never mind. And the thing about bel canto is these long, beautiful melodies. And to be honest, it's kind of hard sometimes to tell what they're singing about. It feels like the emphasis is on the beauty of the voice. And for orchestral players, it's often not the most exciting stuff to play, particularly if you're a violinist. You can tell if you're in a bel canto opera because the violins are just going da 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 da. Da, 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 for the whole evening. Next we have grand opera, and this was a particular taste for the French, maybe. A lot of composers from all over the world wrote grand opera, but it was often, not always, for French audiences. And grand opera, this is the opera where you need to book a cab home because you're going to miss the last train, okay? Grand opera is long, okay? And I mean really long. It's at least 4 acts, probably 5. There's a ballet, although they normally get cut these days, and this is opera about big people with big emotions, and there's a lot to get through, and normally starts before 6 o'clock. And the last kind of opera I'm going to talk about today is Verismo, and this is an Opera Holland Park special, and this is something I've really enjoyed over the years, is getting to know this style of music, and it's based on an Italian literary movement, and it's about the truth. And so this is opera that's not about gods and goddesses or kings and queens or the nobility. This is opera about real people in real life situations and the drama that comes from that.